board of the National Gay Rights Lobby, I met a man named George Dudley, who was an activist here in New York. So I told George all about the Imperial court system in Jose, as I was serving at that time as Jose's president of his council. He did not have heirs at this time. He hadn't even named me an heir, or he knew the lynching mob would be chasing me. So I was just president of his council. And he told me, George called me and said, I have an interest in New York of doing a chapter. So for months I guided, could you come here, sweetheart? I have the greasy hands. I advised George and his committee on how to start a chapter in New York. To put on a coronation, as they say, the rest is history. When George told me he and his friends had booked a Waldorf historian, I about fainted. Because the Waldorf historian, I think you all know. And then more, so when he informed me that because of my support and advice to the New York court and the new board and committee, he wanted to fly me to New York to crown their first monarchs. Now here's the only problem. They were having a difficult time deciding who would be their new and first empress from a possibility of 5 drag queens in New York. I told George to fax, yes, we were faxing then, to fax me, yes, each of the drag queens' bios but the top 3, and then George did. After reading the 3 top drag queens, one stood out to me because she was hosting a weekly cable TV show. Her name was Sybil Brunchen. And once again, the rest is history. As then president of the International Imperial Court Council, I started to cheerleading the New York's first coronation ball and urging courts and monarchs to attend. About 25 visiting monarchs attended from various courts. Emperor I George asked me what was my royal symbol, and I informed him that it was the golden eagle, and he honored me by selecting the eagle as his symbol, and thus he became my first New York son and family member. I will never forget my first meeting of Sybil Brunchen. You gotta remember, this is 31 years ago. So we were at the rehearsal. I was stunned to be introduced to a handsome young bodybuilder built like a brick shithouse. I mean, he was hot. To be honest, she had a very grand attitude, so I said, perfect. And she informed me something. She said, I'll be wearing my own hair. And she had very short hair like she does now. Well, at least she has her hair. And George and I were not amused. So in 1987, I crowned my son, George I of New York, as the Eagle Emperor, and Sybil I as the Atlas Empress, in a most regal ceremony in which then Empress Dora Jar, she has passed, God bless you, to Portland, assisted me and some other visiting monarchs in crowning Sybil and George. There was a slight interesting royal international incident in New York that hit all the courts. And it was Sybil Brunchen saying she was leaving early before the coronation ended. And because she was wanted to go to something called the Black Ball. I see many of you know that. I found out later I would have left early. I think they would have cruised granny trannies even then, do you think so? Okay. So she went to she said she was leaving early to go to the Black Ball, and she did. Once again, George and I were not amused. Here's an interesting side note. My official escort at that time was my then Prince Consort, the country's #1 video star, Rick Humongous Donovan. You can Google him. You understand why he had that name. Many of you older queens know exactly. I met him when he was 18 years old. No, I haven't been on To Catch a Predator, okay? He was just 18 years old. He was legal. It was his birthday. He would later become an emperor in San Diego. I wonder how that happened. But anyway, another interesting historic note, which I found interesting, I didn't figure out till today. The year of your court's first coronation was 1987, so I arrived in New York as a member of the National Executive Committee of the 1987 March on Washington. And today I stand before you as the elected national co-chair of the upcoming 2017 March on Washington on June 11th. And trust me, we're going to have court representation. I've had the honor to crown not only the first monarchs of New York, but Arizona, Hollywood, Los Angeles, Mexico, Indiana, Washington, D.C., and last week, Western Massachusetts. Are they in the house? Ay, mi corazón. By the way, I will tell you later. Anyway, it was one of my greatest honors to be, and truly, when I came to one of New York coronation, and I was named Queen Mother 1, and later I got to crown my daughter, the laundress, as Queen Mother 2 of New York, Coco Lachine. And think about it, I crowned her Queen Mother 2 of New York, and now she will become, in the future, when I get hit by a bus or the lynching mob gets a hold of me, she will be Queen Mother 2 of the Americas. Very interesting. I've had the honor to have New York royal family members that I've named, like Tony, and Coco, Antique, Geffel, Tree, Venus, Goddess, Emma, and Florence, Madison, and Sugar. And I'm very glad to say that Tree has an award named after him. I think it was called the Freddie Tree Spirit of Stonewall Award, which we have given to young people across the country, including this one fabulous 14-year-old boy who wanted to be prom king and became prom king of his high school. So, Tree is an award well deserved. Tonight, I will name 5 more New Yorkers to my family. As I've always said, and I mean this, and I've said it for now decades, the greatest gift that this court system can give is the friends you make for life. And I've had friends since the 1970s through this court system. At one of the coronations, do you have menudo there? I think it is. I'm so hungry. Henry never fed me this past week. I think you saw what he's been making me do. At one of your proclamations, I want you to hear me really good on this. I proclaim, and it says, the Court of New York, the sparkling diamond in the crown of the International Imperial Court System. And you are. You truly are. And I want to take this opportunity from the bottom of my heart to thank you for Jose I don't know the story, I'm going to do it real quickly. Jose had left San Francisco and went to Arizona, and she'd given up on the court system. And I talked her into coming to a San Diego coronation. And she was feeling down, and I said, let's put a big throne on the stage and da-da. So we made her feel good. So I made her feel good in New York. You were the first court that came up to her and said, can you come to our coronation? We'll bring you to our coronation. You'll never realize that one invitation, which later you introduced her to courts, was totally, it re-energized her life and she got back in the court system. So it was a combination of her coming to say, you ladies, you too, yes. Shh. You may be prettier and skinnier than me, but I have a razor blade in my hair. To continue. So, this is important. Because of New York inviting her, she had a whole reopening of life. Pansy will tell you, God, thank God she met Pansy. Then they introduced her to Rhode Island and Connecticut. You gave her a second willing to live. Because we all felt, if this had not happened, I really believe when we talked about it, she probably would have went earlier just out of depression and stuff. But you just gave her the opening of a new courts on the East Coast, and you really, in many ways, extended her life. So I want to thank you, New York, for having done that for Jose.